The Falkland Islands, situated 300 miles off the coast of South America, have enjoyed remarkable growth and economic development since 1982. Today, the population of almost 3,000 inhabitants have a lot to be optimistic about.
I can't see me ever leaving here. I just like it here so much. It's home, and now I have children and grandchildren, and I'm sure they will continue to stay here.
It's beautiful, it's pure, there's no pollution, we've got no drug abuse, there's virtually no crime, and I mean, it is a stunning place to live.
You just have to look around Stanley now and look at the thriving retail sector, for instance. There was none of that, really, before the conflict.
This is the story of how the Falkland Islands transformed themselves into one of the United Kingdom's most dynamic overseas territories. Britain made the first recorded landing on the Falklands in 1690. There has been peaceful and continuous British administration there since 1833, except for the 74 days of Argentine occupation following the invasion in 1982. Prior to that conflict, the economy was in serious decline.
Before the war, most of the business was run by overseas landlords, and of course, therefore, all the profits went overseas, and there was not a lot of investment at all.
To help the Falklands economy back on its feet after the war, Britain provided an aid package for reconstruction and to help drive economic expansion. In 1986, an economic exclusion zone, a 150-mile radius fisheries and conservation area, was declared to protect fish stocks around the islands. A fisheries licensing system was established by the Falkland Islands government, which heralded financial independence. This was to form the bedrock for new economic growth.
That enabled us to charge license fees, which really transformed the economy of the Falklands, but also, more importantly, enabled us to properly conserve fish stocks.
For the first time, Falkland Islanders were able to protect their waters economically and environmentally, safe in the knowledge they had the UK's support and backup.
We're able to ensure that vessels only catch what they're supposed to, that they report their catches properly, and we're able to impose conservation measures to ensure that fish stocks are protected.
It was the issuing of these licenses and the income that they generated that was to change the Falklands' fortunes.
Our revenue, government revenue, went up significantly from around 5 to 6 million a year to over 20 million a year. And that had massive implications because suddenly we didn't need development money from the UK. We could stand on our own 2 feet and we could invest our money in our country to make it a better place for everybody.
That revenue transformed the economy of the Falklands and enabled huge investment to go into industry and the infrastructure of the country. The quality of life for the population as a whole improved immeasurably. They were able to build new schools, invest in modern healthcare services, as well as upgrade to a more efficient road network. And the timing turned out to be perfect.
At the same time as the economic exclusion zones were declared, the wool market collapsed, and this was really bad news. I mean, the wool had been the primary industry in the Falklands until 1982, so that was very fortuitous that we then had the cash available to actually help that industry.
This gave a new lease of life to the farming community, enabling it to take the necessary steps to diversify and keep up with the demands of the world market. The opening of an abattoir built to EU standards allows for the first time the export of meat from the islands.
We produce meat of very high quality to get that EU approval, and we've built up our meat export industry so that annually at the moment we export about 320 tonnes of meat to the EU each year, and hopefully that number will grow.
Farmers here are using the most up-to-date farming practices to guarantee that the meat exported is of premier class. It's not just the traditional industries that have benefited. Investment into the islands has encouraged a whole range of first-time businesses to start up with great success. Lots of opportunities for a new wave of entrepreneurs have come about, some of whom have emigrated to the islands.
And the whole place is thriving because of it. There's no unemployment. You know, there's a lot of locally owned businesses here, which is great for the taxman. Not so good for us. But you know, it really is thriving.
The islands are now virtually self-sufficient economically, with a thriving private sector and high-quality public services and amenities. They have a highly developed democracy, including internal self-government, with the right to determine their own future. The exploitation of oil deposits offshore could prove to be the Falkland Islands' most lucrative industry yet.
The Falkland Islands needs to look at its long-term economic sustainability, and fisheries done us very well, but for the longer term we might well need to look at offshore hydrocarbons for our future.
Licensed areas are well away from the coastline to prevent damage to the delicate ecology of the islands. The protection of their spectacular wildlife is paramount, but the impact on the Falkland Islanders themselves also has to be considered.
Income coming in would have quite an impact on people's lives, and the government would have to think about how to spend that income on the infrastructure here.
If oil is found in sufficient quantities, the Falkland Islands government has pledged to increase its contribution to the cost of keeping a military presence here. Although the Falkland Islands are self-sufficient in every other way, the garrison's upkeep is funded by the UK. But at less than 0.5% of the MOD budget, it's money well spent. Not only does the garrison serve to give the islands increased security, it is a key training base for the British Armed Forces.
Good morning. Hello.
The Falkland Islands have become an attractive destination for tourists, with numbers of visitors increasing every year.
Well, no, absolutely not. Welcome to Stanley. Okay, we've got this season projected figures for about 50,000 tourists coming to the Falklands, and they're coming here to mainly see the wildlife and to see an area of the world that's still untouched really by man. Some people are interested in the battlefield, so from 1982, or just interested in going somewhere different. And in the future, obviously, we'd like to see this grow, but we'd like to see it grow in a sustainable way.
Tourism is now the island's fastest expanding industry, second only to the fisheries in providing income and employment.
You see how you've got all that there? You need to get rid of that.
For these school children, it's the stability of the economy as well as the diverse job opportunities that promise them a bright future.
No, it's not magnetic.
And for those who wish to further their education, the Falkland Islands government funds students to study overseas. The Falkland Islanders today all enjoy a life of peace and prosperity. But the continuing sovereignty claimed by Argentina is never far from people's minds. It is something the Falklands government has a clear line on.
We have chosen to be British, and we need people to respect our right to self-determination, and that means choosing our own future, and we choose to be British.
It is the connection to Britain that still remains the cornerstone of their identity, with many Falkland Islanders able to trace their families back to the original settlers.
We've been here 6 generations now. Yeah, I'm a Falkland Islander through and through, but I'm also British, which is what the war was all about, and the right to self-determination.
We are British through and through, and the connection with the UK is a strong one, always has been, and I think always will be.
Ever mindful of those who gave their lives to restore their liberty, Falkland Islanders are keen to demonstrate that the sacrifice was not in vain.
Yeah, I have them in my rover now.
They know that with political, economic and cultural links to Britain secure, they are in a strong position to make the most of the freedom that was restored to them. To continue building a thriving society, creating an even better future for the Falkland Islands.